probably can't tell, but I'm a huge fan of action movies. I'm Nick Uhas, science YouTuber and card-carrying science fiction lover. Nerdist Versus is an epic series where iconic characters are pitted one against the other while we get to analyze their strengths and weaknesses. In today's episode, we're going to do a deep dive analysis of the two most legendary characters, both more machine than man. Right off the bat, this pairing makes so much sense.
What model are you?
Terminator and RoboCop both exhibit heavy mechanical design fused with humanoid biochemistry. Still, in some ways though, the two are total opposites.
You are a machine.
I identify as human.
The Terminator has a hyper-alloy endoskeleton with an autogenerative outer layer very similar to how humans are built. RoboCop, on the other hand, has a high-impact armor developed by OCP technology in a human brain. This skeleton or armor is composed of Kevlar laminated titanium, making our hero appear as if he were a real-life crustacean. Nature has proven that both systems work, but which works better in combat against each other? RoboCop. Heavy, but still powerful. RoboCop is every criminal's worst enemy. Read these features and weep. Human cyborg. Except for his brain, face, and exposed chin, this hero is almost all machine. While this may work to RoboCop's advantage, few vulnerable surfaces, the machine which occupies the majority of him still needs to be programmed, and therein lies the rub. Inept programming or a cunning virus could spell disaster. RIOT shield impact. RoboCop can take anything from a bullet to a grenade launcher. Punch and kick. RoboCop has actuators in his hands with up to 400 foot-pounds of crushing potential. One punch, and you'll think your grandmother came back to life. Armor. From head to toe, Kevlar laminated titanium, and a bulletproof glass visor to complete the look. Terminator. Powered by the neural net CPU, this AI-driven robot has one of the most powerful learning microprocessors ever built. Punch and kick. Fueled by a power cell lasting up to 120 years, each Colton hyper-alloy fist and foot is enough to plow through a concrete wall. So a human face would most likely smash like jelly. Time sphere, also known as the time displacement sphere or time bubble. This will appear when an infiltrator or human arrives in their predetermined time. Before it appears, a small electrical storm will come first. Then, the sphere will burn or melt anything around it as it can reach temperatures as high as 54,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Fatality.
Armored endoskeleton. This hyper-alloy endoskeleton can take bullets, rocket launchers, and even metal fist. Now, compared side by side, these two machines seem relatively even, but we're not done. RoboCop is made of Kevlar laminated titanium, whereas T-800 is made of hyper-alloy. Though the hyper-alloy offers durability similar to the titanium, is it more advantageous to have this protective layer on the outside or on the inside? Or in other words, which is more beneficial? The endoskeleton or the high-impact armor? Now, to answer this question, we want to set up a simple experiment using one of RoboCop's attack abilities, the arm flamethrower.
Round 1.
Now here's how we're going to set up this test. So what we've developed here is a replica T-800 hand wrapped in ballistics gel. This gel is mostly water, and we would assume that humanoid flesh would also be mostly water. And so that's actually going to protect the inner core of this hyperalloy from a flame. And so we're going to hit it with this mini flamethrower. Now the way this thing works is we're going to put some methanol down in here, and we're going to pressurize it with some air with a bike pump. That's going to give us enough pressure that when I press down on this little lever up here, it's going to shoot methanol across this open flame, and that's going to give us our flamethrower, which is going to replicate the flamethrower that the RoboCop has on his arm. All right, so our ballistics gel is starting out at 60.7 degrees Fahrenheit. The internal temperature from our thermometer is reading around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so they're about the same. Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, robo flame. It is definitely getting damaged. So this is a lot warmer than I anticipated. Whereas if you look right now, you can see that some of the ballistics gel is melting. All right, gonna grab the surface temperature. Surface temperature is 77. So, we're still on fire. The hand has clearly melted. And so what this tells us is that the flame will do some damage. However, if we look at the internal reading here, which is the most important, it looks like it hasn't moved at all. It's just about where we started, which was roughly around 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And so even though it got blasted with the flamethrower, the internals did not heat up very much, which means that the internal robotic portion of the Terminator could still function. And so the flamethrower itself wouldn't actually do a lot of damage to the Terminator. So while T-800 might have a leg up on being torched, how does RoboCop fare against a direct T-800 punch to the chest? Now, we will be using 100 to 125 PSI with a 5-pound aluminum block to replicate a metal fist. Back here we have a tank, roughly 125 PSI. It's gonna run through this tube and into this switch right here, then down eventually into this cylinder. Each punch would deliver at least 15 kilonewtons of force, enough to fracture a real-life skull easily. This cylinder is then going to push a piston with a large aluminum block on the front of it into this titanium plate right here. Now we have overly secured this titanium plate in place so that it can really take all of the impact force. Now we chose aluminum specifically because its overall weight is very similar to that of titanium while still maintaining strength. We're going to fire up our tank, we're gonna get some pressure in it, flip a switch, and we're gonna see if we can actually deliver a punch through RoboCop's armor.
Round 2.
All right, and in 3, 2, 1. Oh my God. What it's done is it has totally deformed our entire setup. All of that energy has been pushed one to one side. And so it's still under pressure right now, so we want to be a bit careful, but as you can see, this piston right here is still holding up this entire apparatus. And what's crazy is that the titanium plate is not broken through. And so what this proves is essentially RoboCop can take a punch from Terminator, no sweat. I'm really curious, if we flip the script and we put RoboCop's data spike on the punching machine, would Terminator be able to sustain a punch straight to the hand? Let's find out. Whoa! Well, I guess when it comes to getting hit with a data spike, the Terminator is certainly at a disadvantage. However, since T-800's entire body is actually controlled by an endoskeleton and not the muscle that surrounds it, the good news is that the damage to this fleshy layer may not actually have an impact on the Terminator's ability to function and fight another day. Alright, so here's what we've learned. The Terminator can withstand a RoboFlame no problem due to its endoskeleton setup. And RoboCop has such dense armor that a T-800 punch would do little more than scratch his titanium. However, if Terminator was so unlucky as to take a data spike impact straight to the torso, its fleshy outer layer would sustain some heavy damage. And yet, the internal power cell that moves its endoskeleton would remain intact. All in all, I'd say it's a pretty square match between Alex Murphy and Carl. Everyone's favorite cybernetic police officer, RoboCop, has finally joined Mortal Kombat 11 ranks in the Aftermath expansion, alongside the Joker, Spawn, and the T-800. Download the Aftermath expansion right now for MK11 on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC, Google Stadia, or Nintendo Switch. Rated M for mature.